Hello, I'm Susan Graham of Senior Edge Legal, and I want to welcome you to the 17th episode of the Beyond Retirement Learning Series. Today, we're going to talk about 4 events that trigger the need to update your estate plan. Before I get into that, I want to remind you that the purpose for these programs is for me to give you information to help you have a secure future. In addition, I give you access to free legal forms on my website, and also there's a way to contact me if you think you'd like to visit with me about your plan. There's an evaluation form at the bottom of your screen, so you can fill that out anytime you want. Well, let's get started with today's program, and that's 4 events that trigger the need to look at updating your estate plan. What are those? Well, the first one is there are important changes that happen in everybody's life, and one of those changes could be that the law actually changes. The people in the state legislature and the National Congress think they need to dream up new laws for us all the time. So that's one thing that could trigger the need for updating your estate plan. For instance, there was a significant change on January 1st, 2020. Our federal government changed the way inherited IRAs are handled. Now, if you're a married person, the laws stayed the same for your surviving spouse. But if you're a single person and someone other than your spouse inherits from you, they changed the rules totally. The change was the money that's in the retirement accounts that you never paid taxes on, for the people who inherit it, almost all of them have to take that out within 10 years. Before, they could have stretched that out over their lifetimes. That was a huge change in the law. Another thing that can change is your health. If you set up an estate plan and you were vigorous and just enjoyed living life to the fullest, and all of a sudden you had some health crisis, that's something that's terrible. And it also means that you need to reevaluate your documents. Do you have the appropriate agents to step up and help when you no longer can handle things? And do you want to continue to handle things? It's possible that you say, this is just too much for me to keep track of my finances. I want somebody else to pay my bills and do all that stuff for me now. And are the agents the right people? Maybe you want a professional to do that rather than relying on a friend or a family member. Another thing that can change, a third thing, is your relationship with people. The people that ultimately will inherit from you. Maybe you're no longer as close to them as you used to be. Or maybe you're closer to some that you had thought you never were going to have a relationship with again. I've had some clients who their children have left the family. And then they come back 10 and 20 years later and they really have a close relationship with that child or that child's children. And that means they really want to change their plan. They want to include them again. Or they may want to exclude them because they've walked away and they've never sent a Christmas card or a birthday present or called. Nothing. And after a while you may say, hey, I'm not going to reward somebody who is treating me disrespectfully. So relationships are important. The other thing about relationships is you've got agents, people you have nominated to handle things when you die or when you're seriously ill. I'm talking about who's your financial agent? That means when you die, who's going to take over and make certain that all the bills are paid and the assets are protected and ultimately distributed out the way you want? Are they still the right people? Maybe they've moved away. Maybe they're ill. Maybe they've died. Maybe you just don't feel that they have the ability to handle this anymore. So that's one aspect. Who are the financial agents you have, the first and the alternate, at least one alternate that you've selected? Are they still appropriate? And then there are health agents. This is who's going to talk to the doctor if you can't communicate effectively, but you're going to get better. You're in a coma for a couple of days from a car wreck, or you're seriously ill from, God forbid, the COVID or pneumonia or something like that, and you really can't make sense when you talk. You really don't understand what somebody's saying to you. Who are those people that are going to speak on your behalf? Again, are they still appropriate? Are they the right ones? Or do you need somebody different? So those are important things to consider. Another aspect that can change as time goes by is your finances. Do you have more money? Do you have less money? Have you sold your home and you're now living in independent living or retirement home or an apartment house, or have you moved in with your kids? What's different, if anything? Maybe nothing's changed, but have your finances changed? And if so, do you need to adjust your estate plan? I have some clients who say I give $100,000 to somebody and then everything else gets divided equally among my kids. Well, is the $100,000 going to cover all of your estate and there's nothing left to divide among your kids? Those are concerns that you really need to address. So those are the four major things you need to consider when you need to look at your estate plan and see if something's changed. Has the law changed? Your relationship with people changed? Your health changed? Or your money changed? Now, there are a couple of other things that impact on estate plans. One of them is you could be moving to another state. Here you live now, and that's perfect, and that's where you thought you'd live forever. And all of a sudden, again, you decide to move to another state. You have grandchildren that are just, they have a physical power stronger than gravity. I mean, they just, boop, you want to be there closer to them, to be able to be part of their lives on a daily or regular basis. So you move from here to Maryland, or you move to Arizona, or you move to Michigan. That's something that also impacts on your estate plan, because every one of the 50 states have some different versions of their documents. Some of the differences are the taxes. Some states have a death tax, and that could range from an estate that's greater than 600,000 or even a smaller number, and some of them have no estate tax. No, it's called an inheritance tax in a state. Some of them have none. Other things that are different in the different states are they all have a different health document called a living will and a health power of attorney. They might have some different names for those, but they have a unique look to them. So you need to be using the ones that are used and adopted for that particular state. The law says they're supposed to take the ones from the state you just came from, but so what? Yeah, that's what the law says, but if you put that under the nose of a healthcare provider, it takes them longer to evaluate the form from the state that you moved from, rather than looking at the one from the local state that they're familiar with. You also will want a separate financial power of attorney for the state that you moved to. Again, they all have a slightly different look, so you want something that's familiar to the local people. So at a minimum, those are some of the changes you'd need to make to your estate plan. Of course, heaven forbid, some of your heirs or some of your agents have died, or their circumstances have changed dramatically. Like you may have a child or a grandchild who's inheriting from you, and unfortunately have a serious drug or alcohol problem, or they're in the state penitentiary, or they're in bankruptcy, or they have a lifestyle that you just don't approve of. You would want to adjust your documents. How do you stay current? Okay, there are things that happen. I mean, this is just life. Whether we like it or not, things keep changing. That's the only guarantee, they keep saying, is that everything changes. So how do you know that your documents are current? Because you want them to be current the day you need them. And thankfully, we don't know what that day is, but that's the day, God forbid, you become incompetent, mentally or physically, you can't handle your affairs, or the day you die. To be certain that you stay current, I strongly encourage you to review your documents at least once a year. Look at your finances, look at your agents, look at your relationships with people, look at the people who are inheriting from you. Actually sit down and do that. And when's the time to do that each year? Some people do it when there's the taxes, some people do it like the 15th of January when they're looking at setting some goals for that particular year. You can do it on your birthday. I don't care. Just put it down so that you actually do that at least once a year. At a minimum, it would be every 3 years, but I would encourage you to do that once a year. If you're clients of ours, I encourage you to consider contacting us and talking to us at least once a year to update your estate planning documents. It's important to notice that there are things that trigger the need for updating your estate plan, or at least to review it to be certain that it's current. I talked to a young man not so long ago. He was an engineer, a single person. And he talked to me about his estate planning, what he wanted to accomplish. And he said to me in a very businesslike way, "Well, when I do this with you, that's it, right?" I said, "No." I said, "This is life." He happened to be in his mid 40s or 50, single with no children. And I said, again, these things change. You need to review your documents periodically and regularly. That so irritated him that he said, "I'm not going to set up an estate plan. There's no point in that." Well, in my mind, that was silly. I mean, I understand he's an engineer, he likes things to fit into neat little boxes, but that's not possible. That's not life. So, again, that's why I encourage you to consider updating and looking at your estate plan, at least at a minimum, and perhaps updating it on a regular basis. Now, I want to tell you the next time, the 18th episode, is going to be about what will happen to your personal treasures when you die. I'm talking about the stuff in your house. At the end of this episode, I again want to encourage you to consider completing that evaluation form at the bottom of your page. It's valuable to me because you critique me, and I'd appreciate that. Because of the comments you make, I hope to continue to improve the information that I provide to you. In addition, if you like those free legal forms I spoke of, I'm talking about financial powers of attorney and health documents and other things. Just complete that form and you'll get access to that on my website. And lastly, if you think you would like to visit with me, just indicate that. Someone from my office will contact you and can figure out if we're a good fit and we can go forward to meet. Thank you.